Greetings everyone, TJB Chris here with a non-TRS-80 video. We're breaking with the TRS-80 tradition this evening, and we're going a little later, toward the end of the Tandy line, 1992. Tonight we're going to be replacing the CD-ROM drive in this machine, and that is because the one that's in there does not work anymore. I'm not going to chuck it, I might pull it apart and see if I can resurrect it, but this is an old 2X Creative drive that's made funky noises ever since I got a hold of this machine, so it's time to go. Also, this drive is driven by a dedicated interface card that is taking up one of the 3 precious slots that is in this machine. I believe these drives are a Panasonic interface. For the uninitiated, there were multiple interfaces for CD-ROM drives at the time. All had incompatible controllers. You had IDE, but not till later. Panasonic, Mitsumi, I want to say Sony, and SCSI, of course. And so none of those were compatible, and at least the Mitsumi and Panasonic drives have 40-pin connectors that look like IDE, but they are not. And so we're going to replace it with this IDE CD-ROM drive. And that's why I'm going to free up a slot. This machine's, it's going to serve as a secondary drive on the only IDE controller in there, and we're just going to kind of take it that way. I'm not really worried about any performance hits. This thing's drive controller isn't exactly known for being a high-performance controller, so I expect no issues. And this drive is actually newer than the machine. I want to say this is from the late 90s, 98, 99, 2000. Let's see, there's a label on it. It says, oh, April 2001. Look at that. So this drive is much newer than that. And I want to say it's 40 or 48X. Probably faster than this machine's going to be able to drive it, but I just need a drive in there. So we're going to pull this apart, swap the drives, pull the interface card out, and put in a slot cover in my free slot, button it all back up, and then we're going to boot up to Windows 95, see if the drive is recognized. That should be easiest because I don't have to muck with config.sys or MS-DOS-sys. If it works there, we'll move on to MS-DOS and get the IDE CD-ROM drivers, throw those onto config.sys and do that, and then, time permitting, we'll try and get OS2 reconfigured for that. So let's get this thing apart and get this show on the road. So there it is, opened up. I've disconnected these 2 cables already just because they're not long enough to reach and let me swing this all the way out. So I disconnected them while I was opening it up. I didn't show the disassembly of this. I think I showed it in my 32 meg upgrade video. If for some reason I didn't and I'm just not remembering that right and you want to see it, let me know. I'll do a video on the really cool case design here, the disassembly of the low profile cases. I really like these Tandy chassis, they're neat. Anyway, I've got my Ethernet card here. Below it is the CD-ROM drive controller, the interface card, and I'm going to just move that, or remove that. This card's going to go down a notch, and then I'll put a slot cover in, and we'll pull the drive out, and then there is an IDE interface on this AW32 here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to try to use it or not. It's currently jumpered for IRQ11, so I wonder if that would be something that's functional even if I don't have the card initialized. It might be worth trying. Maybe I'll do that first because then I can avoid mucking with the cable situation here and making it even more complex and messing with my whole situation here. So I think that's what we're going to do first. If I can find an IDE cable, we're going to try this out first. And if not, or if it doesn't seem to work, then we will move on to just using the onboard controller. So, hey, look at that. We learn as we go. Alright, actually this slot cover is from this machine. I took it out when I put the network card in, so I came back across it. Let's do this. Audio cable out of the way because it was already plugged into the SoundBlaster. Early CD-ROM controller cards like this CT1810 have a CD audio in jack and usually have like here a jack for CD audio. And there's an external CD-ROM drive port on this. Yep, it's Creative Technology 1993. So anyway, hold on to this card for this drive. Alright, let's get the NIC back in there and get the slot cover in. This drive has 2 screws holding it in. These cases are really funky. So there's one here, which I'm going to remove first, and that'll probably make the drive start to swing a bit. So there it is. Creative, when were you manufactured? 1994, so this was a late upgrade, this machine being manufactured in 92. I'll bet it was done about the time that overdrive processor was done. Let's break out the new drive, shall we? We won't call this an unboxing because it's really not. This is just it's an unwrapping. If you really want to protect it, you got to wrap it in plastic. Alright, here we go. So, pretty run-of-the-mill beige. Oh, yep, it is used, so, okay. They did a nice job packaging it. It's very nice. So, we're going to throw this in there. Alright, in the huzzah department, this AW32 has the newer style of sound card or CD audio connector, often used for modems, too. And that's what this drive has on the other end. So, I really didn't want to forego CD audio. I like to use this thing as an overgrown audio CD player. So, now that we've got that tragedy averted, let's get that connected. Alright, there we go. So, CD audio is connected. It doesn't quite reach, so we're going to do what we always do and just kind of thread these cables back. And then we'll deal with them once the bottom, or this side here is down. This can sit just like this, honestly. This drive is jumpered as primary. I'm not going to put the cover back on completely. I'm going to slide it on, but I'm not going to screw it in. Same thing with the cage here. I'm going to put the thing on, which we'll do right now. But I'm not going to screw it in, and that's because I want to make sure that if I have to get in here and make this the secondary drive on the primary IDE controller, I can do that. Alright, here we go. Well, the drive does something. I heard the laser move. I'm just going to skip the memory test. Realized the camera was aimed a little low there. I got a comment once on a video I should get a Tandy CRT, which, believe me, I wanted, and I found one. So, yay! Do not have a D drive. And that does not surprise me, so... yeah, you're not going to find that, and you're not going to find that. We're going to remove this device. Okay, that one we're not going to remove. It's going to friggin' make me reboot, isn't it? Please don't. Okay, it's not. Let's see if it finds it. This is not a plug-and-play system, but we'll see how this goes. Alright, it says it's done something. Detected. No, that's not a thing. Alright, so it does not see it. Okay, after some playing around, so I can get a better light on that, I think I figured out what my issue is. I found there's so many SoundBlaster AW32s, you can't just say AW32, you really need the creative part number. This one's CT3930. I had RQ15 jumper. This first jumper, which I think is actually, is JP1, enables or disables the channel. I didn't have a jumper over that, so I did that. And then JP2, I think, which is the next one down, IDE 00, if I have that one on and this one off, should be the secondary controller and should set up the I/O ports accordingly. I believe if I have the next one on and this one off, that would be the tertiary, and then finally fourth. I think I have this jumper the right way. It is at least enabled. So let's power this back up and we'll see. Oh, I'm going to hook the cable, you dumbass. We'll hook this cable back up, of course, first. Okay. Now we'll close this. We'll get it back together and we'll see if I get a different result. Make sure we don't have anything showing up. Okay, everything's happy. Alright, let's see what we get this time. Let's see what Windows has for me. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay. Maybe I got that right. Space, enter. No CD-ROM drive, though. That's interesting. Oh, no, I know what's wrong. One moment, please. Alright, while we boot, I'm just going to talk confidently like this is going to work. I think I know what happened. Oh, what do you want? What don't you like? Oh, boot device. Oh, did I unhook something by accident? Fuck. Okay. I think I know what happened. Alright, I think I know what happened here. In my zeal, I had started to jumper this drive. What don't you like? Really? Alright, well, there is a drive C. Auto. I'd love to know what happened there. Anyway, while I was doing this, I jumpered this drive as a secondary drive. It still doesn't like it, so what the fuck? 2, 3. Okay. Let's see what this does. Machine's bitching. When I got the jumper set, the machine started bitching and not booting, which then I have to run setup. So I'm going to add 2, and hopefully it lets me into setup. I really want to use, yeah, of course it's invalid. I bet that means it's not going to work, but let's see what it does. Alright. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens. The card's controller is doing something because it appears to be conflicting with the onboard controller. Oh, here we go. Alright, that's good. It just nuked the configuration record in the process. Alright, so here's what I think happened. Talk like I know what the hell I'm talking about, because the machine's just going to boot up and work. The couple of documents I came across for that SoundBlaster card's onboard IDE port were, of course, conflicting, like a good interrupt, or IRQ, and so I jumpered it the way I thought, trying to piece together the documentation, which, of course, conflicted with the onboard IDE controller and caused all hell to break loose. So now, of course, it didn't seem to really like it very much and wouldn't boot at all. Oops. Actually, let's do this. Okay, there's no CD-ROM drive. That's not at all surprising. Settings, control panel, system. Let's see what's complaining. Device manager. Everything's actually happy. Do you see all the ports? Disk drives. Generic floppy disk, okay. Hard disk controller. Standard IDE controller, where are you? 15, 170, 177. I believe that is actually a secondary controller. That is probably where I want that, so I think I actually did figure out, and I gotta get it to recognize the stupid drive, but that's another matter. Another address used by secondary controllers, 376 to 377. Oh, I see. Okay. Alright, so I think these addresses look right. Now the question is, can I get this thing to see the CD-ROM drive? That's a great question. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't just see it, but we're going to let this do its thing, and then we'll come back and see if now that it detects the controller, it can see the drive. The drive is the primary drive. I got to be careful because the words that are printed on the back of the drive are verboten now. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. Alright, so after a little poking around, I think I had the jumpers misconfigured, and it was conflicting with the onboard IDE controller. The other issue here I had, I think, was this jumper here. It says 10, is that 10 something? I don't know. Either way. Some of the documentation online, if you Google it, says that this is a factory set jumper and to leave it alone. It was open. But I found a PDF manual for this particular AW32 card, and it said that this enables the IDE bus. So I'm going to, rather than boot up Windows 95 and go through the Add Hardware Wizard again, I'm just going to boot up a DOS floppy and see if it works. So let's just put that powered on. So this is just a Windows 98 boot floppy that we're booting up, but it's got the Oak CD-ROM driver on it. So if this works, we should see the drive, and it should actually work. Start CD-ROM support. Hey, look at that, we have a drive. Okay, better than I was getting before. And of course there's no PCI read. There's no PCI bus. Okay, we have drive D, so I'm going to pop a disk in here. Keyboard out of the way. Okay, Windows 95 CD, D colon. Hey, look at that. Very good. This drive's a little overkill for the machine, but it works now. I have my CD-ROM drive back. And it matches the case. So, alright, let's get this thing buttoned back up. And I'm going to get Windows 95 reconfigured, get MS-DOS reconfigured. I'll probably just use the Oak CD-ROM driver right off of the floppy here. And then maybe we'll take a look at OS2. Alright, it's been a couple days, and we've been back and forth with this. So, as you can see, I was trying to use the IDE controller on the SoundBlaster 32 as the secondary. It conflicts with this machine in some way. When set up as a secondary controller, it would sometimes appear to work, as you saw, sometimes a few times, until I shut the machine off and back on, and then the system's CMOS configuration record would be corrupted. And the only way I could get that dealt with was to disable the controller on the SoundBlaster card. And there was originally a conflict with the network card, but I moved the interrupt around on that and took that out of the mix. And I even removed the network card from the machine just to make sure that it wasn't the combination of the two that was corrupting the CMOS. It wasn't. So what I did, finally gave up, and just ran it off of the primary controller in here. It's the primary controller secondary drive. So primary drive is the CF card, secondary, and this is all on the single controller on the motherboard. And the one on the SoundBlaster 32 is again disabled. So what we're going to do here is I'll just boot up each one of these and show you. Windows 3.1, as you saw before, I had used the Oak CD-ROM driver, will now happily detect the drive. There's the drive. Yeah, I skipped over the high mem test on 32 meg system. Takes a while. I could turn it off, but I kind of like it. I don't know. Watching that old high mem testing extended memory message takes me back. What can I say? Some people find nostalgia from the stupidest things. Anyway, there it is. There's no disk in there, I don't think, so I should perfect, but it works. Okay. And we'll take a look at Windows 95. Use a sound scheme. And look, there it is. And of course, there's no disk in it, so it's just going to tell me it's not ready, but that's fine. But the drive does in fact work. And now finally, OS2. OS2 took a bit of finagling. That's because the drivers to install the CD-ROM are on the CD-ROM. But they are... CD-ROM doesn't work, because the old drive didn't work. And I had the driver configured for the SoundBlaster CD-ROM controller and drive, but it turns out I got looking around the boot disk, and the boot disk has a bunch of the drivers all loaded, and basically whichever one loads is the one that works, and they just basically load them all. So the base configuration for the CD-ROM drive was here, and I have the screen very large so you can see this. Now that this is open, I can just do this. There we go. So I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, so this is my original config sys. I always back it up. OS2 config sys does not work like MS-DOS config sys. So what may seem simple depends on the statement you're using. For example, device statements will take a full path. Base dev statements don't. They'll look in OS2 boot. So anyway, this is the original one, and this is the floppy and hard drives, and we have CD-ROM. So CD-ROM, IFS, VCD-ROM, and then down here, spcd2.add. That's the actual device driver for the SoundBlaster card. So what I did was I got looking, and in OS2 boot, the IBM IDE CD-FLT driver is already there. It turns out it's on the boot disks. These are boot disks I made, but it's on the boot disks. So if you make the disks from the CD-ROM, if this file hadn't been on the hard drive, it'd be on the boot disk. So actually getting it enabled was a rather trivial matter. Okay, and specifically, all I had to do was remove sbcd2.sys and replace it with IBM IDE CD-FLT. Again, if you put COS2 boot IBM IDE CD-FLT in here, it will not work. You will get an error message on startup, and then it will continue starting up. So anyway, it is in fact there. And if I go to drives, there's my drive. Of course, if I hit it, it's going to yell at me. Oh no, drive D is not ready. So we'll just return the error to the program and be done with that. Of course, now it was 2 beeps. It's funny, you get the system beep for the driver interpreting it, and then the presentation manager gives you the ding when you return the error back to it. But anyway, CD-ROM drive now works. So now I have this new IDE CD-ROM drive working in OS2, Windows 95, and Windows 3.1. That's it. The CD-ROM is installed. If you have a Warp 3 and probably a Warp 4 system installed, and you had a non-IDE CD drive, before you go digging around or trying to get things onto floppy disks, just look in OS2 boot and see if IBM IDE CD.FLT is present. If it is, and the other CD-ROM drivers are already there, and the installable file system, you can probably simply update your config.sys and reboot and have a CD-ROM drive. So that was a much bigger rabbit hole than I expected. There was a lot I did off camera that you probably wouldn't have really enjoyed watching me do anyway. It was just back and forth with different IRQ settings for the network card, for the SoundBlaster. One other thing I did try setting up the SoundBlaster as a tertiary controller. That seemed to stop stomping on the CMOS data, but it had the effect that I couldn't get Windows 95 to see the drive at all. Windows 3.1 and the Oak CD-ROM driver would, but DOS and Windows 3.1 would. OS2 I didn't even try. Windows 95 would not let me change the resource settings on the IDE ESDI driver to be able to see the controller. And the bullshit to gratification ratio wasn't worth it versus just putting it on the controller and not dealing with the SoundBlaster card and the random corrupted CMOS data. So that's kind of how I went with it. There was a lot done off camera, but it works now. Yippee-yi-yi. And now we're going to get back to the TRS-80 projects, but what I thought was going to be a quick, dirty, and fun MS-DOS project reminded me of why sometimes I loathe base I/O, interrupts, etc., but at the same time, love it so much. It was quite the rabbit hole. Well then, until next time, thanks for watching, and stay classy.